Hello, I'm Amanda, the Animaven, and I'm from Otaku CollectionDX, and there's a whole lot of tiger and bunny going on screen right now, which is exciting. Of course, the star of today's show is the guy in the middle, SH Figuarts, Lunatic. I'm excited about Lunatic. He is super cool, one of my favorite characters in the show, and I feel like I've been waiting for this figure for so long. But before we get to him, let's do some introductions. Moving from left to right, starting with Chibi Arts, we've got Barnaby Brooks Jr. and Wild Tiger. Then moving into SH Figuarts, there's Sky High, Origami Cyclone, Rock Bison, Barnaby Brooks Jr., and Wild Tiger. And then finally, Blue Rose and Dragon Kid, both of them in Chibi Arts. So back to Lunatic. I feel like the first time I saw Lunatic in the show, I remember thinking, oh my god, I can't wait to have a figure of that guy, because he just has this incredible dynamic look to him. He moves from these in his uniform, he's got these very cheerful blues and greens right up against the dramatic blacks. And then he's also got this white piping on him from, his feet all the way up to his hands and his wrists that kind of remind you of like a skeleton frame. So there's that. And of course his face is probably the most off-putting thing about the whole character. He's got this crazy, this just intensely bizarre face that almost looks like an evil clown and an evil robot had a love baby, sort of. So there's the face. And you can see that he's got these giant bug eyes. There's not a brow line, there's not eyelids, there's just these eyes kind of popping out of the skull. And that's really creepy. He's got these very dramatic cheekbones and those teeth, those gnashy robot teeth. And they're also kind of rodent-shaped a little bit buck-toothed. So he very much looks creepy from the front. He looks like a bad guy. When you turn him to the side, he looks a lot like Wild Tiger. He's got the black with the green piping, he's got the white on top, and he's got that pointy head that is very reminiscent of Wild Tiger. So from the back, they could be like brothers. But in the front, all you've got is crazy and off-putting. And of course, when he gets really ticked and he uses his fire powers heavily, the flames come out of his eyes, and that's just really cool. So the fireballs, let's start with the fireballs. His fire is excellent. The way that it's sculpted, the materials that they use, the really translucent look, the color of it and the shape of it actually reminds me a lot of the Figma append Hatsune Miku, which is a big compliment in my book. But the way that it's done, the very fluidity and motion of it, it reminds me a lot of her. So you can see that he's got two very large fireballs on his hands right now. He also comes with a smaller set. Now the way that these guys attach, we'll get to that in a second. The way that these guys attach, there is actually a hand inside of every fireball. Lunatic comes with a lot of hands. He comes with 10. So you've got the two inside the smaller fireball, the two inside the bigger fireballs, and then, 3 more sets. So when you're attaching him, it seems like you would just plug this whole contraption onto the wrist socket. That's not really the way that it works. I mean, it is, but when you try to do that, at least when I try to do that, what ends up happening is what just happened in my hand a few seconds ago. The fireball comes apart. So you can see the hand in there, which is actually really nice if you want to use the hand for something else. Like that one, which I just dropped, is very well sculpted for holding one of his accessories that we'll get to in a bit. But the problem becomes, it falls off a lot. How do you handle it? How do you put it on effectively? What I ended up doing was just taking the thing apart at the get-go, attaching it to the wrist socket, and then remolding the fireball on top of it. It's not as easy as it sounds. It's kind of like putting together a jigsaw puzzle with no end pieces and all the same color. There are a couple of pegs inside of these, but they really blend in because it's all the same color. And the whole thing is just, it's all ridges. So it's a little bit difficult. A little bit of a pain to deal with, but not that bad ultimately. It's well worth the figure. The figure is cool enough. So he comes with a handful of accessories. And a word about the stand. I like to keep my Figuarts off their stands. Like you can see that all these guys back there, none of them are standing on stands. The Chibi Arts are, but you know, they don't stand up on their own. But the Figuarts do. Lunatic does stand on his own. He's a little bit harder to pose because he's got these very spindly legs, and you know the fireballs have some weight to them. So I use the stand for the purpose of this review, but that doesn't mean he doesn't stand up just fine on his own. He does. So anyway, back to the accessories. He's got a lot of holsters here. You can see that there are 2 gun holsters on his back. And then right there on his hip is my favorite. It's the crossbow holster. Now the cool part about the crossbow holster is that the crossbow comes right out, and you can see the little wicked blade at the bottom there. It's kind of held together, like the string's not popped out. It's really cool though. It's really nice. It's very lightweight, and it just slides in and out of the holster so easily. It's super easy to use. I like that a lot. Now, he does use the crossbow in the show, and so if you wanted to, you could pose him with this guy. You can see the blade is popped out right there, nice and curved, like it could do some ugly damage. And of course it's got the fireball on top, so that's really cool. This poses really easily. You know, he's got a ton of hands. One of them works really well. So yeah, that's not a problem. Now if you've seen him in the show, you know that the first time he appears, he's wearing a cloak. He comes with a cloak. The cloak is very plasticky. Very plasticky. You can see that it's got like the nice little holes and then the pegs, so you can put it together like that. This is the back piece. There's the front piece. And he actually comes with 2 front pieces. There's this one, and then there's one with an open flap, which is cool if you want to pose him holding out the crossbow. Which, if you check out the review on Otaku CollectionDX, you'll be able to see pictures of that. I can't really do that right now because it's kind of a pain to pose him like that, and I don't want to waste too much time. So yeah. The cape, cloak, whatever he is, it's a little bit difficult to play with and to put onto the figure, mostly because of these little shoulder pieces right here. They move around a lot. And the cloak is a very snug fit on him. So making sure that these little pieces are just perfectly lined up with him, it's not the easiest thing in the world. It's not terrible though, it's just not the easiest thing in the world. So there he is. SH Figuarts Lunatic. It's really cool to be able to add him to my collection. It's really nice to be able to have a villain, sort of, I guess, to go along with all of my heroes. He's definitely an important part of the show, so it's good to have him. It's kind of cool that they released him before completing the entire lineup of heroes. We don't have SH Figuarts, Fire Emblem, we don't have Blue Rose, we don't have Dragon Kid, so it's cool that they did that. All in all, he's a great figure. He's a lot of fun to play with. He looks so cool. I had him out of the box for maybe 5 minutes before I started texting pictures of him to all of my friends. He's just badass.